Okay, this is a 3-team tier. So we got Thunder at the top, we got Pacers in their own tier, and then we got a 3-team tier. Knicks, Celtics, Wolves. Those 3 teams are in their own tier. So the Knicks, by going up 2-0, are even with the Boston Celtics. And I get that if you're a Knicks fan, you're like, come on. You were down 20 twice. It took furious fourth quarter comebacks. Now, Boston revealed a lot of the stuff that we've been saying about them for years, about their down the stretch offense, about how they can melt these fourth quarter collapses, all of that type of stuff. And the Knicks deserve so much credit for, one, their defensive execution, Jalen Brunson's shot making, their tenacity. They deserve credit for that. You do all that in order to make up the difference between these two teams coming into the series when most people thought this was going to be 4 or 5. And the Knicks have completely flipped that on their head, and they deserve all the credit for that. It doesn't remove that the Boston Celtics are a much better and proven team than the New York Knicks. So they have pulled even. If we're ranking within this tier, I would go Knicks and then Celtics and then Wolves. But Boston has to get credit here for being up 20 twice, having a chance to win. The series being, it's not 3-1, it's not 3-0, it's 2-0. You can come back from that, as tough as it is. And so they go on this level. Knicks have to be here because they're up 2-0, but they, I think, have more problems versus if Boston gets out of this series alive, I expect them to win the conference. They can't, like I said, if the Celtics, if it's 2-2 versus 3-1 Pacers, I still have Celtics. The Pacers can beat the Celtics, but probably won't. The Celtics could lose to the Pacers, but probably would beat them. And I think they would beat the Cavs too. And so the Celtics have to go, I think, on this level. And then the Timberwolves are down 0-1, so I can't put them higher. If they hadn't done whatever that game 1 was, if they had just been a normal team in game 1, I would have the Wolves up there with the Pacers. But they can't be. So they're here in this tier. Knicks, Celtics, Wolves is your third tier for the title.
So I've got some stuff on the Timberwolves, but let's do Knicks Celtics here. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right about the Celtics. They could definitely win 2 on the road. They've won in New York twice this season. They're 4-0 against the Knicks in the regular season, but they've won at Madison Square Garden twice. They're a better road team than they are at home by record and by net rating. And you're right. Like, they were up 20 on the Knicks twice, and they shot themselves in the foot both times. We could do the whole, did the Knicks collapse? Did the Celtics collapse? Did the Knicks come back thing? The answer is both, but certainly the Celtics collapsed, right? Like, they drooled themselves into a puddle in these fourth quarters. And I'll say that unless Tatum starts playing better, then the Celtics can go to the bottom of this list because they have no chance. But I also think Tatum can play better. He's been a good rebounder, good defensively, good playmaker, but he's got to start making some freaking shots. And unless he does that, then the Celtics are cooked. But I think he can come back, and I think he could do it on the road, where he's played really well this year. The Knicks have thrown stuff at them. These aren't completely unforced errors by the Celtics. Like, they are surprisingly switching in this series, and they've been really cool with having Jalen Brunson switch onto a big, which has allowed the bigger bodies to stay on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and kind of force them into uncomfortable positions. I mean, we saw Mitchell Robinson get isolated against Tatum at the end of on that final possession for Boston last night, and Tatum kind of got shook, right? He lost his dribble a little bit, kind of had to go all the way down to the opposite baseline to try to get some space, and then Mikal Bridges got the block there. Amazing play by him. He's been incredible this series, but they're cool with Brunson being on Porzingis when he's out there. They're cool with Brunson being on Horford when he's out there because they're not worried about those guys, which is the biggest difference between last year when people were calling Kristaps Porzingis the most important Celtic, which I thought was always ridiculous and overstated, but he was still very important. He's just not been that guy for them. And without that, the Knicks have had such an advantage in the size part of this, which has allowed them to switch these things because they're just not worried about the big men in Boston because they're not getting those relief buckets from Porzingis. They're not getting those timely threes from Horford for whatever reason in this series. And it's really even the playing field here. And then you combine that with just the fact that Jalen Brunson is just making some incredible shots, and he is the clutch player of the league for a reason. And Tatum and Brown just haven't stepped up. And I don't know how much X's and O's really go into this series other than just stars outplaying other stars, but I think the switching part of it is at least an interesting thing.
I think there's some X's and O stuff based off of the year over year and the perceptions. And this is something I've been on for a while. And this is obviously confirmation bias because the Celtics are down 0-2. But I did want to kind of talk about it. So last year, I think the Celtics were a really well-balanced team that could beat you in a lot of ways. Their defense was elite. They had an elite defense last year. Mm-hmm. This year, they have a good defense. They have a good defense. It's really good. It's not elite.
Right.
Last year, they were able to beat you in so many different ways. They could. Jaylen Brown was playing phenomenal basketball. I thought he was their best player last season. Jason Tatum was their best player in terms of talent, but Brown had the best season. That hasn't been the case this year. Tatum's had the best season, but I actually think Derek White may have been their most important player this season. And what they've done is they've leaned so much into what I've referred to as the bit, because I don't want to say gimmick because that's got connotations to it. The bit is Missoula ball. It's we're just going to jack up threes, just jacking them up. Just nope. Transition, pull up jumpers. The key here is that you can't equate every single 3-pointer as the same. Pull up 3-pointers are always going to be less efficient than catch and shoot. Pull-up contested ones are going to be more efficient than some other shots, but they're also going to be less efficient than catch-and-shoot contested shots. An uncontested pull-up shot is going to be about the same efficiency as a catch-and-shoot that's guarded. Like, that's the key here. And in game one, so much of it was pull-up three-point shooting, which is entirely inefficient. The other thing, they went so far into the bit of being this volume three-point team, they got away from these mechanisms. And it's why when you get them out of their comfort zone, they struggle. The key with game two versus game one, they generated bad threes in the fourth. Game two, they took fewer threes. As a kind of a marker here, on the season, the Celtics average about 55% of their shots are 3-pointers. In game one, 75% of their fourth quarter attempts from the field were threes. But in game two, it was only 42%. They actually didn't take that many threes in game two, but they couldn't attack because that's not who they are. They are a jacket up 3-point team, and they haven't been able to execute this. And Celtics fans' response is, the Magic held our 3-point attempts down and we beat them and we're great, because the Magic couldn't get buckets. The Magic couldn't score. So you're running against mismatched mid-transition cross-match defense routinely and able to punish them because they can't score. The offensive rating for Boston was great in that first round. It's 117. That's awesome. However, it wasn't the 120 that they kind of their standard at. And the difference between makes and misses, they were only at 108 offense off of Orlando makes in round one. They just ran off of misses because Orlando couldn't shoot. So now they're out of their comfort zone. The question is going to be, is Boston's defense going to be able to get enough stops on New York in New York to do this again? And they've done it for 3 quarters, but they got to finish the job.
Yeah. 2 things there. With the 3-point shooting, I didn't even really have a problem with the 63s. I thought that conversation got so out of whack. Oh, did the Celtics just, it got so meta so quickly with the 3-point shooting with Boston. I didn't have a problem with the 63s necessarily. I had a problem with 1 3-point attempt in game 1. It was Jason Tatum's final 3-point attempt where the game was tied and he just needed to get to the bucket. And that's when he's supposed to do it. And we've seen Tatum do this. He has the ability to put his shoulders into his defender and get a layup. He's done it before. And the fact that he settled for a 3-pointer there, that was the one that I had a problem with. And then you're right. They have not been able to get to the rim for whatever reason. They haven't been able to run off makes or off of misses rather. And even when they did start trading some of those threes in game 2, because I do think that they adjusted. I think there was a look in the mirror and they said, hey, we can't take quite as many threes in this game. We got to try to push it a little bit more. But then when they did that, they weren't getting to the basket because the Knicks during that key run were playing Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns together. All of a sudden, that 2-big lineup, they were blocking off the paint. So instead of trading those threes in for efficient looks at the basket, they were trading in those threes for long twos, which is the opposite of what you want to do. That was like, it's the antithesis of the whole point of the Boston Celtics these days. So they're just not getting the shots that they want. Robinson and Cat, by the way, plus 21 in this series. They've been awesome together against the Celtics. And I think it's a reason why, again, they were on the floor during that run in the fourth quarter when the Knicks came back. I think the identity thing is great because they didn't do this as much last year. It wasn't so 3-point heavy. They went further. Everybody said, can you take this many threes? And they said, hold my beer. And they said, we're going to take even more threes this year.
Yep.
And I think you're seeing, like, I'm not sure it was the right thing to do. They saw the Houston Rockets in 2018 miss 27 straight threes, and their response to that was they didn't take enough threes because eventually they would have made them. That
Yeah.
was
Okay.
sort of their response to it.
Yeah.
And the rest of the league is like, hey, it's the fourth quarter, just get a bucket.
There is a problem here, I think, with somebody asked me about this. Somebody DM'd me this morning and was asking about, can you explain? He's somebody from football and was like, can you explain why teams keep taking threes when they're not falling? And I was like, all right, so imagine this. You dare one guy to miss and he misses. And so you pack the paint a little bit. And then the other guy, now because like your team's a little bit out of rhythm and it's contagious, like these things are ephemeral and they're contagious. The other guy misses. All right, you say you shrink a little bit more. And now the pressure's up. It's like, oh, I really got to nail this one. They're on a 9-0 run and you miss another one. And now everybody's missing. And so now 5 guys are packed in the paint. Now, conversely on this is if you can't shoot threes and you have to drive to the rim and the team is able to pack the paint, then it's a problem inherently. Like this is why spacing is so important, is you have to force guys out in order to create those driving lanes. It's why I told this person this morning, I said, the most important weapon that you can have in the NBA playoffs is the floater. Because then if they pack the paint, you're able to drive and still get a shot from mid distance. That's a high percentage look without them being able to contest it. It's better than a layup in the playoffs because you're going to have 3 guys. In this case, you're going to have Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Like just trying to block the snot out of that ball. It's better to be able to get to that floater. And the Celtics don't really have it. Jaylen Brown is their best short mid-range shooter. And he's having an absolutely terrible season because he's got a knee injury. And that's apparent when you see this.
And not having Porzingis in there. It's not exactly a floater, but having him in the middle of the floor at that free throw line area. They don't get those relief buckets anymore. Yeah.
A short pick and pop jumper in these kind of situations. Like that's exactly what they could use here. And so there is a point where you needed to sharpen these other mechanisms for it to be, hey, we can get points off of cuts. Hey, we can get points off of this. Because look, Derek White in the series, let's believe this. Okay, he averaged in the regular season 6 catch and shoot 3-point attempts per game. He's averaging 10 in the 2 games in this series and shooting 40% from 3. He can take more. They should be just driving and kicking to White. And now he's missed some big ones in the fourth quarters, but those are the ones that if you're a Boston fan, you literally can just say, if Derek had just hit those, we would have won those games. And they're not wrong.
They're not. And what's crazy is I thought they could have took in more threes in game 2 and they might have won that game. They're a little in their head right now.
They are.
They got punched in game 1. They're like, should we be doing that? And I actually thought Joe Mazzulla did the right thing. I get the reports so he actually said, I think there's like 8 to 10 shots that maybe we got wrong after game 1 and the immediate post-game presser. And then the reporting out of Boston is he came out of shoot around and said, forget all of that. Keep taking threes. But then they took 20 fewer threes in game 2 than they did in game 1. I actually thought they should have probably taken more threes, which is pretty crazy.
Players don't love this. And I'm not, like, Wes and I are not anti-analytics people. Like, we're not against these kind of concepts. It's about, if you have a healthy offense that's well balanced and generates high quality open threes, that's good. And that's honestly what Boston did last year. Like, because I've both fought with Celtics fans over last year and how many injured teams that they faced. And also, I've defended them to other people because I've said, like, look, Boston played crisp, efficient, selfless basketball to create great looks and knock them down, to take advantage of an inherent advantage of where they get shots from. That's good basketball. This year, I have not felt that way. This year, it literally is like, what if we don't have to create good looks? Like, what if we don't really have to dribble? We'll just throw the ball around the perimeter 3 times and shoot a 3.
Right. And is that the difference between winning the championship and not winning and having not won the championship yet? Last year, it was, hey, we haven't won yet. We got to do this. And that little extra brush screen, that one cut on the baseline, that stuff that they were doing last year, you're just like, I'm just not going to do it this year.
I think so.
That, yeah.
I think there's because this, I've watched this in person. There's so many parallels with Denver and in 2024 and Boston this year, where even when the Celtics were kind of flagging a little bit mid-season and everyone was yelling, they're just coasting. They're they're just coasting. We know what they've got. I heard this exact same stuff from Denver media last year. And like, I was one that was like, well, you know, they're not quite as good as last year. They're probably good enough to win the title, but they're not quite as good. And that's exactly where Boston is. Now, again, they can correct this because the Knicks are worse than that Wolves team. And that to me is like the difference here is like the Celtics still have a lot of pathways because of who they're facing in the Eastern Conference, especially with the Cavs imploding. But I do think that Boston there's a hubris factor, especially in coaching, where you just start to take off the pedal and be like, I've done the work and now it's just cruise control. You can't do that. You've always got to be reinventing and sharpening. Those are the two things you've always got to be doing as a coach, is reinventing who you are to adapting how players change, and sharpening things to make sure that you don't take them for granted. And I think both those things have happened with Boston.